Dort. Down to Dort. This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk. This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
I'm Josh Giddey, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, this is Kenny Hustle, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Darius Baisley, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Poku, and I'm down to dunk.
I love cereal. Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cracklin' Oat Bran.
Oh, I can have these. I'm going to share with my team, but I'm going to hog most of them.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Mondays is my good friend, Michele Barrett. Michele, what's up?
Well, it seems that we had a great game last night. It was fun. I know that you brought the entire family there. So
I did bring my whole family there, which is if you have children, you know that it's a much different viewing experience when you have a 3-year-old in your lap the whole time and trying to watch the game in a somewhat serious manner. But you know what? The Thunder and the Grizzlies didn't show up in a serious manner either because they both wore the same jerseys. They both wore white. And it was hilarious because they walk out there and you're like, they take off the warm-ups and it's like, uh-oh. Surely they're not going to play like this. And they stood there for a minute. Everybody's kind of like pointing at each other. It's really funny. So it was a hilarious way to start the game. My kids are like, what's going on? Why isn't the game starting? It's like, well, you can't wear the same clothes as the other team. So Grizzlies had to go change.
yeah, when I opened the game, there is on League Pass, when you open like a replay, there is the entire duration of the game, and it was 2:35, and I said, "Oh no, another overtime! Why?" and it was just the beginning. So that's that was a pleasant surprise. I went to the 10-minute mark, which is where the tip-off is usually placed, and I saw like Ja and Shai looking at each other. I said, okay, that's very weird, and it's weird that OKC is involved in both of this uniform dilemma over the past few years.
Yeah.
It was last year, right? Or during
last year. They changed it at halftime, I believe.
Yeah,
that game where it was like, yeah, we can't keep doing this. This is not a good idea. And they had to. I'm glad that they immediately did it because it's just a weird move. It's just
it's impossible to play. Even pickup is hard when everyone is wearing the same color. I can't imagine professional basketball.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, actually, decent game. Basically, it was great last night. Offensively, he had his normal moments where he's just doing some stuff. However, I shot the ball well, had a lot of dunks. He was cutting well. Shai was finding him. His teammates were finding him. I enjoyed the stylings of Darius Baisley. Obviously, Shai was back on track after what was kind of a mess of a game against Minnesota. And then Lindy Waters, the third, man. I'm not ready to declare him even a dude yet. However, it's nice to have a young-ish player that's contributing and is an actual shooter. Like it's just nice to have a shooter that could possibly develop. I don't anticipate him being like a huge part of the team moving forward. He's on a 2-way contract through next season as well. So I expect him to stay on the 2-way and they just use him whenever. But it's just nice to have a prospect that you're trying to develop that's a shooter.
Yeah, I was doing Thunder After Dark earlier today, and John told me, and I was impressed. He said, "Yeah, he's shooting just 34.2%. Yeah, that's not right."
Started really bad out the gate.
But even in the past 10 games, I thought that, and then I watched the past 10 games, 34.5. So it's
how many games he played though? He hadn't like really played that many games yet.
Yeah, that's right. In any case, the point of Waters is that he's a guy that can take shots and like take a lot of them, because in that it doesn't take a lot for him to get up, and that is usually a very good thing for shooters. Like it's not like Shai where he has to do a little bit of work to get it up. It's not like a fast shooter. Waters is a very quick shooter. He's a guy that he doesn't need much space, nor vertically nor in terms of time, and that is interesting. And it seems that it's not like one type kind of shooter. Like, hey, if I'm getting the ball there, I'll be effective. If I get the ball here, maybe not so much. He seems like a versatile shooter off the catch. I
Yep.
want to see more of on the move, which is again my thing, or
Mhm.
it's the thing with shooters. But I love the fact that he's not short. He's tall for a shooter, 6'6", 6'7". I don't know how
Yeah, 6'5",
how much.
6'6". Yeah.
Yeah. So he has size. I mean, if the shooting projects and the defense is not awful, I mean, I don't know if it's with OKC, but
Yeah.
those guys are
Kinda awful.
a space in the league. Yeah, it's awful in spots. I wonder how much that is. Hey, I'm new to this kind of speed.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to somebody. I was actually talking to Anthony Slater earlier today, and we both went to Oklahoma State. We both really like Lindy. We want Lindy to work, and he's like, his first thing out of his mouth was, "How in the world is Lindy Waters in the NBA?" You watch him at OSU, and there's nothing that makes you think like, "Oh my goodness, like there's a role player in the NBA." There's been guys in the past that I've thought like they could probably make it in the league and didn't. Lindy was never really one of those guys, and credit to him, like he's really worked. He's made it work, and with the blue, I hope that it works for him long term. But
Mhm.
it's hard to tell right now because if you're healthy and you have a Thunder uniform that has your last name on the back, you're getting minutes right now.
Yeah.
And you're getting significant minutes. There's just not anybody on the team. And so it's just really hard to know. Like if this team is healthy, are they even using him for 10 minutes off the bench? I mean, the answer is probably no. So it's just hard to know
Yes.
what's real and what's not when we watch this team right now outside of Shai, honestly.
Yeah, but when you see the defense react to a guy defensively, that counts for something, right? Like,
I mean, he's a shooter. Yes,
yeah,
he's a shooter. I
yeah.
just wonder if he can do enough else to
What else?
make it. Defend. I don't care if he
To what kind of level?
to just a stay on the court kind of level where I mean, like I'm not confident that Lindy Waters could play minutes in the playoffs.
Yeah, but that's way ahead of saying, hey, it's not in the rotation in an NBA team. Like being on an NBA team on regular season is one thing.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
Being
like, if we're in search of a guy, and we think that he's one of the guys, I mean, that's
oh no,
that's
no.
like that's the bar you have to clear for me. And I'm saying, like, I think that he's going to be on the team next year as a two-way player. I'm just a little dubious of what he could be long term and projecting that. I
Oh
need
no,
to
it's
see
it's
more.
too early for that. To me, it was just a very short term project. Like, hey,
Yeah.
next year, let's play more. In 2 years from now, probably so. Like, if the shooting is real, I again, there are shooters that in time they may have one good season, even on volume 3-point shooting, and then the season after it's a disaster. So
Sure.
it's very early to draw any conclusion. But the conclusion I made is, hey, this guy, I want to see him a little bit more.
Yeah.
A little bit more of a competitive environment, maybe. Because if you talk defense, I mean, Trey Man last night was terrible, like even worse than Lindsay yesterday. So
Yeah.
it was very bad. And so was Shai in spots. So the defense right now seems like a little bit lost. And you can't help yourself but notice that minutes with Shai do not correlate really well during the season with minutes of high level defense.
Yeah. I mean, this is a skeleton crew. Like this is not.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
this is the blue. This is Shai in the blue. Like that's what they
Yeah.
are.
And he has good moments.
Yeah, they had some good moments last night. They scrapped together a quarter and a half of pretty good basketball last night, and it was enough to keep them in it. That's great. It's great.
Yeah, and last thing on Waters, it's so nice to see that Shai just need a guy like that to work.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
as soon as you give him a little bit of space, no matter if he's like Joe Harris or a guy like Lindy Waters, if the defense shifts a little bit, and Zaire Williams was doing that later in the game, where he was just paying attention to Waters in the corner and maybe not helping, not hover helping on Shai, that was enough to clear the way for Shai. It's insane how easy it is for Shai to be effective on offense. If you think about the players he was playing with, it's just he just needs a competent shooter out there in the opposite corner, and his life is easy.
Yeah. The Fluky asked about DJ Wilson. Just so everybody knows, DJ Wilson was signed to 10-day with the Raptors and had a season-ending injury. So he will not be with the Thunder at all.
He was having good moments in the G League, though.
He was crushing the G League, man. It was cool. Speaking of injuries, we don't have an official update from the Thunder on Josh Giddey for a minute. However, I do have an update on Josh from, you can call it whatever you want, a source with knowledge of the situation, a source close to the situation, whatever you want to call it, that he has been dealing with this hip injury for a while. And I don't know if it hit a tipping point or if it hit the point where it was just like, we need to get you healthy or whatever it is. He does have a legitimate hip issue, which is being called into question because it's late in the season and it's, for this time for a lot of teams, it's winning time. This time for the Thunder, it's losing time. And a lot of people just answer like, hey, why is Josh Giddey out? Oh, they're tanking. It's like, well, okay. Could be part of the story that they shut him down because it's time to lose. However, I really have a hard time like buying into that line specifically because of how important it is for the fit between he and Shai to work, that you wouldn't want to use this time to have those two. I mean, and those two with this crew, they're not going to win games. They may beat Orlando or whoever, but they may beat Orlando anyways, upcoming. So it is.
Hey, Orlando is playing pretty good.
Who?
Orlando. They're playing well.
They're playing well. Yeah, their defense is like stepped up significantly.
Yeah.
But it is something that he's dealt with. There's no decision that's been made. I know that it was said on a ESPN podcast last week that he's going to miss the remainder of the season. My source says that that's not been decided, that they are still trying to figure out what's going on with his hip. They want to give it ample time to respond, I guess, to the treatment that they're giving it to see what they're going to do. Now, could he miss the remainder of the season? It's possible. There's not that many games left. I think there's only like 8 home games left.
Yeah.
So,
and they told me that tanking Giddey usually gets better in May or June. So I'm sure that he will be okay after that period. But no, I mean, it's why forcing it? Like, yes, it's good development time. Shai and Giddey will have plenty next season. And if you're not 100% sure that something that is mechanical, or like, for example, if he bumps into someone else, is it worse? Does it make it worse? Or it's, I mean, if you have even the slightest chance that that thing can be worse in the summer, you stop it.
Well, and you could argue that you would rather have him sit now and then use the off season to work on his game, than push it to the end of the season and then have to sit out for like 4 or 5 weeks or whatever it's going to be.
Oh, it's much worse.
Than like using this time to get better and watch tape. He's still around the team. It's funny, my 3-year-old sitting in my lap and he's like, "Where is Josh Giddey?" He's like, you need to show me where Josh Giddey's. Like, I can't see him. He's not here. And so I had to get him to zero in on Josh Giddey's mint green hoodie that he was wearing last night. It was really funny. But he's around the team. And in the off season, I think he is going to spend some time back in Australia to start the off season. And then he's going to come back and he's going to work. And I would personally, if he is going to change his shot, like he said he's going to, or at least tweak it, I'd rather him have the health to do that than to, go in and lose to all these teams, So there's a lot of arguments to be made. There is a legitimate injury. I was poking and prodding just for somebody to say that, honestly, because and I know it probably frustrates a lot of the people around the organization and probably the players too, that people are questioning whether these injuries are legitimate. And a lot of people are out there tweeting that they're not. But the truth is, like, if you're saying that, you just don't really know. And even though it's a legitimate injury, perhaps it's something that he does play through if this team is like fighting for the playoffs, or if they're like the 2 seed or wherever, and he's gonna have to play through it anyways. I don't know the severity of it. Obviously, he was playing through it and playing well. I mean, he was playing well, through the hip injury that he had. So I don't know how serious it is, but it is legitimate. They do want him to get back to 100%, and like that's where they're at with it right now.
Yeah, didn't Paul George play an entire series with the same injury that Lou Dort has right now?
Yeah.
I think it did.
Yeah.
So there are injuries where you can play through to some degree, and Paul George was not great in that Portland series, but he was not bad by any stretch of imagination. So you can play through like a lot of stuff. But again, why? There is no point. Especially if it's not like contract year for you, which is, it may be sort of maybe that thing for Dort, but this sounds like, hey, we are good here.
Or if he's like the rookie of the year, like leader, and it's like, it'd be nice to have that hardware for him and for the team. So let's keep this going.
Yeah.
And then push your rehab, after the season's over. It's like, well, he's battling for third, fourth.
Yeah, he's going to be first team or rookie.
So, yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, certainly, but, there is legitimacy to what's been going on with him. Whether you question that or not, I know a lot of people did. I just, brought on one of my buddies' podcasts, and he doesn't think it's legitimate. And I think the part of it that's hard is at the time, like it's always like the timing with this, and legitimate in that like he couldn't play through it. I don't know.
Yeah, but even the timing, it's not like, why do you play that game after the All-Star break if you already made up your mind? Like,
I don't know.
That game, you basically put all the comments and saying, hey, we're going to give the ball to Giddey. Giddey will be your main ball handler. Are you really going to do that if you think that Giddey isn't going to play for the rest of the season? No, you don't. You just don't.
And the thing is, like, I can confirm he did not sustain the injury in that first game. Like, the injury was not sustained in that game.
He sure felt it.
He must have felt it.
Yeah, otherwise, why sting him after that game?
I don't know. He wasn't moving any different after the game. I didn't think. I actually need to go back and look at my stream, because a lot of times I'll try to video them a little bit as they walk up or they walk out. However, it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't. It's very weird that you put yourself into this situation where you have to discuss with Shai that sentence. Whereas if it's just one game and then you sit, then hey, play this one, and then we'll talk later. You don't go.
I am not complaining at all, because it gave us something to talk about on the
sure.
show.
But yeah, definitely. It was.
I don't complain about the content that was created from that moment. It is what it is, and he's going to be reevaluated. Hopefully, he can play.
Yeah.
For at least a few games. They've got.
Maybe he can play 5 games in April so that he can win Rookie of the Month, even on that game, and just missing March.
I know it's kind of a bummer. He's not going to win. I would bet you Jalen Green will win it this month.
Yeah.
The March, which is kind of a bummer, but you can't win it if you don't play. So,
Yeah.
and Jalen Green would probably have a chance to win it even if Giddey was playing.
But I want to say something about Shai being the number one guy.
Okay.
Because I had a lot of questions. I did an AMA during the weekend, and like I get this question a lot. Like, is this version of Shai really changing your mind about who is going to be on the ball more? I think that the more I watch him, the more I think that there is a version of Shai that is more successful than the current one, where it just has the ball in situations where it can be extremely dangerous for the opponent defense. I mean, think about Steph. I know that it's always him and my examples, but because it fits so many things offensively.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
suppose that Steph has to take 20 shots a game, heavily contested.
Yeah.
Can he do that? Sure, he can. He will probably make 36, 37% of those. But why do you want him to play that way? I want Curry to leverage the defense, to move the defense around, following him, and then trying to getting open shots, open looks. That is what I'm trying to make. There is no real, there is no more honor in taking difficult shots if you can get away with easier ones and you can help creating easier one, which is the hardest part. That's why I think that in moments, even moments yesterday, Shai tried to be off the ball some, tried to move around to create space in different ways, create space for man, for Baisley. That didn't work particularly well. But anyway, I really think that the more I watch this team, the more I see Shai being not necessarily the guy who brings the ball up the court, because I don't see any value. I really see the value on Giddey surveying the floor, making the first read, and then the team plays off of that, with maybe Giddey and Shai being a little bit more involved one another in two-man games and stuff like that. But I'm more and more convinced that there is nothing that will harm Shai's future in playing with a gifted passer like Giddey.
Yeah, they made it
You
clear.
have to play out your card well.
Yeah, they want multiple ball handlers. They've made that clear, is that they don't want a heliocentric offense. Like, that's not what they're looking for. And, I mean, Dallas is seeing it right now that they're playing a lot better with another guard in Spencer Dinwiddie next to Luka. And rather than him just being like the son of the Mavs solar system, I think that they need more than that. And he still is that to a large degree, but I think having somebody else that can create a little bit is helpful. And that's why they drafted Josh. They want somebody that can do that. They could have taken a Jonathan Kuminga, where if they wanted a heliocentric Shai offense, like Kuminga's like way better as a guy that can rim run and
play finisher,
shoot it, play finisher, crazy athleticism, a guy that you can throw lobs to. He would have been a much simpler fit if you were going for that. They weren't going for that. They want multiple ball handlers. They want their offense to not be as predictable. Just because Shai doesn't start with the ball doesn't mean that he's not going to get it back. A lot of times you start a play to get the ball to him. And they run, if you just watch the Thunder's plays, I mean, they're always running plays to get guys a ball in a certain situation. They do that with Trey. Trey doesn't bring the ball up, but a lot of times Trey is finishing possessions because of the position that he gets put in through a play that they run. So I wouldn't be concerned about it or look at this version and decide one thing or another. I mean, we don't know who they're going to draft or what position they'll be in May for the draft lottery. Like, we just don't know. And then what's going to happen in June? How many guys do they take? What, who do they keep from this roster for next season? There's just so many questions to answer before you can arrive at what does the ultimate role of Shai and Giddey look like. Well, do they draft a guy that's better than both of those guys? And then it shifts everything for them? It's possible. Does that happen in the next 2 years? It's possible. So let's just hang on before we try to define the rest of these guys' careers today. You can't jump ahead too much. You have to see what you got. And the rest of this season, I'm glad that Shai's playing, because otherwise this would be a really tough watch.
Yeah.
There are moments where you're just like, oh boy, like I don't know how they're going to manufacture points, and I don't know how they're going to keep the other
Teo
team
was
scoring.
so bad.
Teo's
so bad.
Teo is this season's Teo. He is unchangeable in that way.
Yeah, I really wonder if he's nearing the goal line.
Yeah, especially if they drafted like Jaden Ivey or something like that, it'd be like, all right, peace.
Yeah, and on the draft, like, take the Celtics. They draft 2 players with the same size, with very similar skills.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the fit was not crystal clear. They are probably still missing something to ignite the offense to a certain degree. But like, do you think that they want to get rid of one of the two? No, they are not. They are clearly not. So even if OKC ends up with 4, 5 very good guards, like say they draft Ivy and they have Trey Mann, Ivy, Shai, Giddey, and Dort.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I mean,
the good thing about it is that you've got Giddey who can play up. You got Dort who can play up. You have Trey who
cannot play up.
Can't play up, but can play on the court and will try. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, again, then think about like good teams in the past that had like guys that were not clearly power forwards or small forwards, and yet they played the same role, and that those teams were successful. So again, put talent, put shooting around Shai and whoever, and you will probably get something very good out of it.
Yep. All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of that break, we're going to go big picture, looking at the schedule, looking at how the Thunder are performing on offense and defense through this stretch. We'll be right back. And we're back from that quick break. Michele, the Thunder are 29th in defense post All-Star break. That feels about right. 121.3 defensive rating. That's real bad.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome. That's
their offense. This is surprising, and this isn't good by any stretch. But 106 is their offensive rating. It's 29th in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But 106 is not like a bad offensive rating. Like, that's not horrible from where they had been this season. There were times where they were under 100.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, that's decent. But then you look at, since the All-Star break, like the Bucks are 122. Minnesota's 119. They average offensive rating since the break is 115. It's like, whoa. That's wild. Offense is like exploding right now. And then you have the Blazers, who have a 97.9 offensive rating, which is just unbelievable. And the fact that they won a game, wow. They have a negative 25.5 net rating since the All-Star break, and they won a game during that stretch, which is just mind-blowing. Still number 1 in defense since the All-Star break, the Orlando Magic, who barely have a negative net rating. Negative 0.1 net rating.
That's awesome news.
It's very good.
They're not too far behind. It's not like last year where OKC had like 18 and the other teams had 11, 12, 13. Like they're pretty close. Do they have like 2 games ahead?
2.5 ahead of Detroit's 2.5 ahead, and then Orlando's 3 ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't put my hopes high for Houston. I don't think that they will win more than OKC.
Has the worst record in the league. So, wild.
But hey, Detroit and Orlando.
I'm not getting my hopes too high. I'm just glad that the Pacers won a game and that the Thunder are 2 games ahead of them. That's what I'm most glad about at this point.
Yeah, that's
very
narrow.
If we can get to 3 or 2, I really just don't think it's going to happen because we have to play Orlando twice. We got to play Detroit. I mean, you look at the Thunder strength of schedule the rest of the way. They're 25th in strength of schedule. They've got Orlando twice, Detroit. They play the Spurs still. They have the Blazers twice, which
that's
my
stinky.
gosh. They somehow play the Lakers again?
Oh no! There are
In
too
LA?
many winnable games.
And then they play Charlotte is like they play Charlotte tonight, second night back to back, but at home. They're not playing well. And then they've got like one against the Suns, one against the Heat, one against the Jazz, one against the Celtics, one against Denver, which like Denver just craps the bed every time they play the Thunder anyways. And then they have one against the Clippers. So it's, the strength of schedule is it's not great for the tank war for OKC at this point.
Yeah.
So I think 4 is fine. Like if they land at 4, I think that's, totally fine.
I'm so glad that my prediction on the Halliburton Sabonis trade is actually coming to fruition.
What was your
that both teams will be basically the same as before, as bad as before.
They both stink.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. They both stink. You watching any March Madness coming up? We've had conference tournaments. We had Selection Sunday. You got any predictions or thoughts on
I have
the tournament?
Followed this year even less than last year.
Mm.
So I basically have no idea who is on the bracket. I have no idea who should be the favorite. I know that Gonzaga is pretty good. I know that Duke may be okay. That's it.
Yeah, they're good. Any guys that you like? Have you watched anybody yet?
No, not to to a responsible degree to say anything.
Yeah.
No, it's my life is quite busy over the past few months.
It's quite all right.
Yeah, I'll try to watch a little bit more in the coming weeks as soon as the season is over, just to try to do my usual focus on the draft and stuff like that. But so far,
I have a quick trade scenario for you, just to bring back some Dort hate.
Oh yes, I'm ready.
If you've got some. So this is from Ethan Nickel, who sends me DMs every once in a while and always has some interesting questions. I'll tell you how I answered it after. So he said, let's say that the draft order looks like this, where the Thunder finish with they get the 7th pick in the draft, and then the 15th pick was the Clippers pick. So let's say that that's where they're at. Would you trade the Clippers pick and Dort for the 8th pick, which in this scenario is the Sacramento Kings? So Dort in 15 for 8. I said no because I don't know that the 8th pick in this draft is even going to be as good as Dort. And then plus I think that things get flat pretty quick in this draft where it's like, man, I just don't know who's going to be. Like the 15th pick could be as good as the 8th pick. Like nobody. That's just where there's just so many question marks. So that's where I kind of left it.
Yeah, and I would pose a question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, suppose that we are discussing this trade as managers. What is getting me 15, 30, and my second rounder?
Yeah, I don't know.
Does it get me to 12, to 10?
Maybe it does.
Then I'm basically evaluating that Dort is worth a pick in the 30, a second rounder, and a little bit more, which is probably undervaluing him a little bit. Not to I don't think. Sorry?
I said not to a crazy degree, though. I don't think that's overvaluing him to a crazy degree.
No,
Or
no, no, no.
valuing him, I mean.
No, but I don't think that you can get an unprotected pick for Dort. I don't think so.
Yeah.
That is not the market.
So
So a protected pick plus a second, I think that is probably fair value. The fact that he's the number 30, that makes it a little bit more stinkier. But I mean, to me, the proper value of Dort is picking the teens plus something else.
Mhm.
And I don't see value in trading him for that. I need to get more than that.
Yeah.
So in the end, to me, it's a no.
Mhm.
Because I would probably achieve similar results with a different package that is worth less.
You just have to really love who's at 8.
Yeah.
The Thunder would have to just be like, "Man, we love Johnny Davis," or maybe Jalen Duren falls to 8, and they're like, "You know what? Like, we can turn this guy into a star big man. Like, we need to do this." Then it makes sense when it's for a specific guy. When it's just for the 8th pick, like in a random draft, the 8th pick, it's like a woof, you know?
Yeah, but even a specific guy, like it really depends on what you think about Dort. Because
Yeah.
if you think that he's is commanding like 20 millions plus as a salary, then it's probably, hey, okay. If you have, let's put it this way, if you have negotiation where you already know that the value is not there salary wise, then hey, yes, take the trade. If the salary is making you in an uncomfortable spot, then you probably do it even if you don't think that this is fair value.
Yeah.
But if you have it on a very nice salary, which is not that cheap necessarily, it may be something starting at 15. That is not offensive for a guy like Dort. I
Yeah.
really think that there are like salaries in between what it can be the maximum value that he can take and the 12 million of the Inky special. So if you get somewhere in between and you really like the value, hey, sign him. There is no point. If you don't, then you may consider trade like this. And you have so many assets. If you really want to get to 8, you can do it without putting Dort into the mix.
Yeah. Probably so. And it would just be really sad to see Dort play in Sacramento too. I just don't want to see Dort wear a Kings uniform. We can send him somewhere else. We get him to the Spurs, get him to.
What OKC player currently on the roster would you say, okay, I can, well, of the good ones, not Theo. Theo is not an answer, that you don't mind seeing in a Sacramento uniform with
Oh,
the current, and it has to make sense with the roster.
That's a sad question. Gosh, first of all, you have to think about like who's worth it for the Kings for them to have out there. You know, playing Muscala with Sabonis would be kind of interesting.
You are heartless. Muscala. Okay.
Darius? Is that
Yeah, Darius makes sense.
Darius would make sense for them. Him next to Delmas makes some sense too.
Yep.
Especially if you get the version of Darius last night. You know, shout out to Darius again, man. Great game last night.
Yep.
It was good to see him pop offensively and then play well on the defensive end. Let's see if he can do it again tonight against a fun offensive team in Charlotte, but they're struggling, man. They're really struggling right now. The Charlotte Hornets are. Let's see what they are, and then we'll go.
33 and 35.
Yeah, 33 and 35 net rating currently since the All-Star break. Where are they? They can't be very good. They've struggled. They're 10th in net rating. That's not too bad. Where are they defensive rating? This is just kind of I guess they're pretty mediocre. 17th in defense, and then offensively, they're 4th. Better than I thought they would be. A lot of people have been dogging on them. They're 4-4 since the All-Star break, but positive net rating +4. So
I still wonder what's the real ceiling of this team.
I question that too.
I have no idea.
A lot too. LaMelo's been up and down. You know, he's not been really the star that a lot of people say that he is. He hadn't been that in the second half of this season. So, but he has in spots, and then other times there was a game where he had like 4 fouls in like 2 minutes and like didn't play hardly at all. That was weird.
Yeah.
So you rarely see that from big time star players. So, all right. We'll end here. Thanks so much for listening to our pod. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Down to Dunk. Follow McKelly on Twitter at Mikey Barra. Follow me on Twitter at Andrew K. Schlecht. Leave us an Apple podcast. What is it? 5-star review? Yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I just like completely brain farted on that. 5-star review. You have the Purple Podcast app. Click on it. Hit the search button. Search Down to Dunk. Click on it. Hit 5 stars. Bang. You're done. Leave us a message too. We will read it. All right. Have a great rest of your Monday. We'll talk to you guys again on Wednesday.